So far I have laid out the base of the toolbox in the bottom left-hand corner of my paper. I'm going to be placing the cover of my toolbox in the top left-hand corner. This will again allow me to have two edges that start perpendicular to each other, which will help me tremendously in laying out this drawing. For the cover, I'm going to again find the total width and height of the drawing. I can see that the width is 14.5 inches and the height is 6.5 inches. So I'm going to be laying that out on my drawing paper. Again, placing some reference points and creating some reference lines off of those reference points. We have 14.5 inches width. Then I'm going to start laying out my operational lines. I can see that my number one operational line is a 1/2 inch from the edge of my drawing. So more reference points and reference lines. My number two operational line is 2.125 inches from the bottom of my drawing. My other number two operational line is 3.875 inches from the bottom of the drawing. So I'm going to mark that out. And my number three operational line is a 1/2 inch from the top of the drawing. Now, to verify that I've done this correctly, I'm going to be taking my additional 2.125 measurement and measuring between my number three and my uppermost number two line. If done correctly, it should measure 2.125 inches. After that, I'm going to start laying out my notches on my cover. Looking at the original drawing, I'm going to first place the one located in the lower left-hand corner of the drawing. This measures 0.625 inches from the bottom of the drawing. Now we already have the reference point located at the very bottom because this was a 1/2 inch in from the left side. So on our drawing, this reference point has already been placed. We just need to go 0.625 inches up to get our other reference point. And then we can connect those points together. Our next little notched out portion, looking at the original drawing, has a total opening of 0.375 inches. .375 inches is 3/8 of an inch, and given that we already have located that number 2 operational line which bisects this opening, we can take our 3/8 inch measurement, divide that in half, which would equal 3/16. We could measure 3/16 on each side of that number 2 operational line, which would give us our opening of .375 or 3/8. So on our drawing, we're going to identify 3/16 on either side of that number 2 line. And then connect our reference points together. And lastly, in the upper left corner of our drawing, we have a little bit larger notched out portion. We have already placed our first 2 reference points, which measure a 1/2 inch over and a 1/2 inch down on our drawing. We need to identify our remaining reference point. That is located .625 inches down from our number 3 operational line. And once that has been completed for both sides, we can darken in all of our lines. And all of our operational lines will need to be dashed, and then identify each of those procedures of operation. We can then shift our attention to laying out the holes for the hardware. The handle mount holes are located 2.875 inches from the center line. So on our drawing, we first need to identify the center line. To do that, we need to identify the total width of our object, which is 14.5 inches. If we take 14.5 inches and we divide that in half, we get our 7.25 inch measurement. So I'm going to create some reference points at 7.25 inches and connect those reference points together to form a reference line. I'm then going to measure 2.875 inches away from that center reference line. My handle holes are located 1 inch away from each other. So I need to create a center reference line in the centermost portion of the toolbox cover. That will help us place our handle mount holes, which are located 1 inch away from each other. Our remaining component to lay out are the holes for our latch. These are located 0.625 inches away from our previously identified center line. And these holes will be placed in the center of that small rectangular tab portion. At this point, we have laid out both the base and the cover, and we are ready to lay out the ends.